Okay, welcome back again, everyone. Tommy, really interesting first section there, and you've very kindly offered to give us some of the top tips in business that you have gathered over the last 7 years or 8 years. So over to you, fire away.
Yep, thank you very much, Amy. I think certainly for me, the biggest thing that you can do is just surround yourself with good people. I guess to sort of try and sort of sum that up, if you're a generalist, then get some specialists. If you're a specialist, then get some generalists. I would not have achieved anything without the brilliant business partners, the managers and staff that I've recruited and that I've worked with over the last 7-8 years. Going back to the retail story, when we got to the second store, as I said, I guess another part of the first story was that my motivation for wanting to run my own business was more for lifestyle reasons. But again, very quickly, that became a 7-day-a-week job. The t-shirt was on, you were working in the shop, and then as soon as you got home, you were dealing with all of the the reporting side of things, the training side of things, the admin and the organisation sort of side of things. So very quickly it became quite overwhelming, which I didn't expect. And after the second store, I recruited at the time a general manager, Greg Benson. If I can give Greg a shout out, he's one of the best things that ever happened to me and my business. So he was an expert in retail, and he came at a really good time. I had the eye on the sort of third store, and I knew if we were going in that direction, that I needed to bring that general manager into the business. And I guess sort of following the introduction of Greg, I guess the hard part was the letting go part, because you became so engrossed in that day-to-day management, the 6 inches in front of your face, that the hard part for me then was to let go and let Greg sort of get on with things. And when I eventually did that, he was just so good at it that my involvement in the day-to-day business became less. So at that point, I started to work on the more the business development sort of side of things, the working on the business rather than the working in the business. So he gave me the space and the opportunity to go and do that, and that was ultimately what led to I think the BT opportunity, because what I was doing at the time was taking the retail business in a different direction by going after business customers. I was out chapping doors, I was going to events. Again, the awareness of EE as a franchise wasn't particularly great, and that's the way a good franchise should be. The experience that you get in a franchise store or in a company store, you shouldn't really know the difference, other than when you walk out of a franchise store, you think, wow, the service was really good in there, because we do try and sort of personalise it. So surround yourself with good people, bring in good people. Again, I've worked with a lot of good people over the years, and that's as the business has grown, that I guess is the sort of ground that I've gone back to. So again, when I started the BT business, I did it in Scott Gibson, my business partner at the time in this business. So myself and Scott, known each other for 20 years, friends, colleagues, great relationship again. And I guess, I think he'd seen what I'd done in the retail sort of space and thought that, well, I know he did, that, this was something that he would have wanted to do. So, so to be able to do it with Scott was also really fulfilling. And as the business grew again, we brought in another partner in Tony McCabe. And Tony worked for BT for a number of years. So again, he he had a lot of contacts within BT. He knows how to navigate, a lot of the complexities of BT, and he's very much operational, involved a lot more in the operational sort of day-to-day sort of side of things. So there's three of us involved in the BT local business side, but it is quite it's a big beast, and I'm really grateful to work with both of them, because it's we all bring something different, sort of to the table. So I think having that ability to sort of, bring people together from sort of different skill sets and making it gel, and moving into the Regis opportunity. Again, I've gone back to a former colleague, Graham Orr. So Graham will myself, Scott, and Tony will be 50% of the new business, and Graham will be the other 50%. So he'll be more involved in the day-to-day running of that business. And again, someone with a completely different skill set. His background is project management. My sort of superpower, if you want to call it that, is sales. And we plan to move our BT business into the site. So again, we'll all sort of be together. So I think it's really important that you choose the right people, and that I guess what I really wanted as well is for those guys to have a shareholding in the business. I don't think you can beat that when it comes to how much commitment you've got to a business when you've got skin in the game. So I've got a really great, diverse bunch of business partners, and I think that's absolutely critical. And one of the other things I touched on earlier was it's not simply a case of choosing carefully. I think it's also about making sure that you're being chosen carefully when it comes to franchise. I think there's a lot of franchises out there that they'll literally just check your pulse and your bank balance. And I think unless there's a real proper process, which all of these guys have had, they're big corporate entities, so they chose very carefully as well. I think that's important. I mentioned earlier about success leaving clues. So for all of these opportunities, what I would always say is, well, who else is doing this? Because unless you're the first franchisee, then there's likely to be people operating who are already successful. Who are your competitors? Are your competitors doing well? Who's winning? Speak to them, research them. Look at whether they're looking to expand, or whether they want out. And the one thing I've always found in especially the franchise community is that there's so many people willing to help you. And a big part of that, I think, comes from the fact that you're not always competing with each other, because you're more often than not, you're operating in other territories. So there is a real sense of sort of camaraderie within the community, and everybody wants everyone to do well. And as I say, anyone that's thinking about franchise or looking at franchise, and even business in general, I do believe, although pretty much everything that I've done in terms of operating my own businesses has been in the franchise sector, that the principles are very similar, and they're all very, very transferable. I think that the other thing that's really important to me is that you pay people what they're worth, and you'll keep them. Don't pay people the minimum amount required, but what they're actually worth. If you're making money, make sure they're making money. You're having worked for big corporate organisations for a long time, you're no longer representing shareholders, or making sure there's a dividend for people you don't know or will never meet at the end of a financial year. So it's important to reward the people that have helped you to become successful. I'd like to think we do that well, and that's reflected in our attrition levels. I think another benefit of growing is that you then after people move from retail into the BT business, I'm looking at people moving from the retail and the BT business into, the IWG business. So it's great that you can, create a sort of career path in different roles for the people within your business. And again, I think that helps with retention. So I believe it's much cheaper to spend more money keeping people than it is to keep going out spending money attracting people. And we also like to promote from within. Again, I believe if you are a successful business, that you should look to promote from within. I think if things are broke, then maybe you should look to go externally. But where things are working, then the reason things are working is because those guys, those people have done a great job. And one way of rewarding that, again, not just financially, is making sure that there's another role for some of those guys. I think we've got a couple of accountants on today, haven't we? So I think knowing your numbers is important. You need to know what your costs are, what your margins are, what your ratios are, what your percentages, your wages to turnovers, your acquisition costs, etc. What your top line is, what your bottom line is. How much does it cost every day just to turn the lights on or open your doors? And I think it's also important that, again, the people that work for you, that they know these numbers. Again, I think it's an empowerment thing. I think it's an engagement thing that, a lot of, I think business owners, they either hide the numbers or they don't know the numbers. I think if your people know the numbers, then they've a greater appreciation for the costs. And I think that makes a big difference to, how they go about your business. I think I mentioned earlier that, I think a big dose of humility is a good thing in business. Again, when I started, I worked in the shops. I put a t-shirt on, I got the pair of trainers on, I stood with the guys. I think you can, you become part of the team. I think it's easier for people to relate to you, to open up. If a customer walks in the door, you're not standing there with a sharp suit, the shiny shoes, the good clothes, and whatever else. You're part of the team. You need to learn every role in your business. You don't need to do it forever, and you don't need to be an expert in it. But it's really good for you to learn those roles and work at it. As I say, wear the uniform, and you'll have a greater appreciation for the job that your guys are doing. I guess the big thing for me as well was watch your emotion, particularly in the last year. I think the onset of COVID, it would have been easy to panic, and I think we did once or twice. But I think what you've got to be careful you don't do is that the people that work for you see that panic. You're it's a proverbial swan, isn't it? Where above the water you're trying to remain calm, confident, what you're going to look like at the other side, etc. But really under the surface, you're scrambling away. You're speaking to your landlord about deferring your rent payments. You're speaking to the bank about potentially some funding. You're looking at where you can reduce costs, where you can delay payments, etc. So I think the one thing I've certainly found in business is that you're either way up here or you're way down there. You're very rarely somewhere in the middle. But I think what you have to I think you have to give the impression that you're somewhere in the middle sometimes, but it's a roller coaster like nothing else. When you're up high, don't get too high, and when you're down low, don't get too low, because both those feelings are, I guess in my experience, temporary.
Yeah.
But I guess what you learn to do just over time is that, you get used to it. It's important to upskill your people as well. So I talked earlier about, how it's all about the people, and make sure you look after people. I think the recognition part, whatever else is right, but you need to know who the key people in your business are. You need to know everything about them, what motivates and inspires them. You need a succession plan. If one person leaves, who takes their place? What impact would that have in your business? As I say, primarily we are sales organisations, so the value of one person walking out the door and then you having to go and replace that person in terms of both time and money, it can be very expensive. So make sure you develop your people, make sure you reward your people, and make sure your people are engaged. And it's also important to invest in yourself. One of the things that I found is that, having worked for big organisations like, RBS, Direct Line, T-Mobile, EE, etc., you've got the big corporate bosom and its vast resources. There wasn't someone you couldn't go to, or another department, you had everything at your disposal. Whereas you're now out in the big bad world yourself, you're a small business and you don't have those resources. So you need to invest in yourself. Again, you don't need to become an expert in everything, but you do need to learn the things that you don't know, and what you don't know until you don't know. Apologies that might not sound good later on when people try and listen to that one back, but you need to invest in yourself, whether that's going on courses, whether that's reading, listening to ebooks, etc. It's really important that you invest in yourself, because people look to you for inspiration, and you need to get your inspiration from somewhere as well. Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Again, working for big organisations, if you had an idea, it was, let's business case it, let's kick it around the table, let's send it to head office, let's wait 3 weeks for a reply, let's get asked more questions, and 3 months later I forgot what I'd even asked for in the first place. As a small business, you're a speedboat. Just do it. It's all about progress. It's not going from A to Z. It's the B, the C, the D, and the E. And again, if something doesn't work, just stop doing it. So you can do what you want, and if it works, keep doing it. And if it's not working, stop doing it. As long as you're not breaking any rules or any laws in particular. Just if someone in your organisation's got a good idea, then just let them do it and support them. You're not expecting it to go right all the time, but they go right more often than they don't. So give people that opportunity, and again, you'll be surprised at how creative they can be. I said it was going to be a top 10, but that is 12. So when I go back and say know your numbers, I'm going to sort of try and filter this one down a bit. The main thing for me is accountability. It's your business, and anything that goes wrong in that business, it's your fault. Doesn't matter where it happened or how it happened or whatever, it's your fault. Look at every situation as an opportunity to improve things. Take the responsibility for it, and you will move on an awful lot quicker. You will get better, and your people won't be fearful of making mistakes. So it was me that recruited them. It was me that was responsible for training them. It's me that's responsible for looking after them. So ultimately, anything that goes wrong in my business then is my fault. So, and I think if you have that sort of attitude, mindset, then you'll develop that relationship with the people in your business, and you'll have a highly engaged workforce, and a highly engaged workforce is a high performing workforce.
Brilliant, Tommy. Thank you so much. Really interesting points, but really valuable points. So thank you very much for sharing those with us. They'll no doubt come in very handy for some people. I think we'll reconvene them with some questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Tommy. I'm really looking forward to the Q&A now.
Thanks, Tommy.